Today we're covering Iran versus Israel. Trump is getting involved, but it's entirely cryptic. Tomorrow we've got the FOMC meeting, which is when M2 money supply is supposed to come on up. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is taking a little bit of a dip on maybe the war news, but traditional markets have not. That and a whole lot more. Let's get into it. So it's very, very cryptic what Trump is saying. And obviously the markets respond mostly to that. So Trump, I'm not too much in the mood to negotiate with Iran. And then just hours ago, Trump proposed a last-ditch effort meeting for a peace deal with Iran. However, on his Truth Social, which is where he just kind of tweets or dictates to one of his team members, and they truth tweet, whatever it's called. He's talked about saying that Iran has to sign this deal. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. Then he goes and attacks Emmanuel Macron, president of France, saying that he left the G7 summit, Trump did, in Canada, to go back to DC to work on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Trump says it has certainly nothing to do with the ceasefire, much bigger than that, whether purposely or not. Emmanuel always gets it wrong, and continue on with like the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Now, this is very, very relevant because I saw a very short clip on this with kooky Tucker Carlson, who is also far more Republican, I believe. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. This is relevant because in this video, he was interviewing someone that basically said, if you're a billionaire and you have 5 years, anyone can have a nuclear weapon. That is how easy it is right now with resources. So this is this tweet here, which kind of made everything kind of react a little bit. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said over and over, everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. And there's also been a National Security Council being convened. And this per Grok relates to obviously the conflict. And with Trump and Canada, the Situation Room ensures real-time updates. But some may question US involvement versus staying neutral. So we don't actually know if they're actually getting involved. All we know is that he did leave the G7 early. And of course, people trying to tell their citizens to leave Israel and of course Iran. But that's a bit of that's an obvious thing. And just in case you didn't realize this, the only way you can leave Israel right now is by land border crossing. So you have to go into Jordan and then fly out from there. Like, you know that Israel's surrounded by countries. A lot of the countries are not very friendly towards Israel. There's no commercial flights. Of course, they could be shot down. And there's no way to leave via sea. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's price has dipped potentially on the news, but potentially it's just dipped because that's just the way the market makers wanted to move things. Still holding its support right now, and we still need to come up in order to have a bit of fun, but it's dipped ever so slightly. Solana has also had a bit of a dip, which we'll go over Katoshi settings a little bit later. And remember, like, I'm just going to repeat this, nothing's financial advice. But we don't know where the market's going. We can only work out what the direction could be and take risks based on FIB and other tools. So setting some buy orders at these different levels, if they get filled, I think the price is going to come up pretty quickly and then we'll be okay. Of course, things can change if the war really develops, but I'm not seeing that as a likely thing. Hyperliquid broke out and then it came on back. It was a little bit like, yes, when things break out, you think, okay, next target, like we said, $50. But it also relates to, is Bitcoin doing well? Is like the general crypto mood doing well? Because this is a larger cap, it's not a slightly relevant meme coin. So it's come on down, and remember the buy order would be anywhere around $41, I think. And of course it could go down lower, but that would be the TA area where we're buying. Coming back to this, so this is not too long ago, like 6 hours ago. Now the idea is potentially bunker buster missiles. So in other words, like to really get in there and to do some damage. But ideally we want peace, but like, how is it going to work out? Polymark is now betting 67% chance that the US military will take Iran before July. And you could see that it was basically almost zero very, very recently. So things escalate quickly. Now in this time, when you zoom out, this is a big reason why Bitcoin matters. And because, if you are in one of these countries, or if you are dragged into a country and you cannot leave with your assets or your value of your dollar devalues, you can try and get out with your Bitcoin. One thing is, other than the invading of Russia and Ukraine in 2022, which is deep in the bear market, every other major thing of late resulted in Bitcoin price going up within 7 days, 14 days, generally 30 days, and 90 days. So it does rely a little bit on M2 supply, of course. It does rely on that quite heavily, I think. But you can see that all these war things, it's really more about just trying to get your attention, I think, from the legacy media, which is now becoming more like X, and just trying to instill fear. And I know it's really hard for the people in these regions that have been affected, but for the real markets, I wouldn't be shaken out here, to be honest. And just back up again and just have a look at this. Remember, if we were entering World War III, which is not coming as far as I'm aware this year, then the S&P 500 wouldn't be 2% away from an all-time high. And remember that Trump doesn't like to do military things. And the S&P, in fact, the S&P 500 would be down over 30%, and the oil price would be $100 per barrel. All right, so overlaying M2, we can see that we've had our little dip. We've had our dip down, you could say. We've come up a little bit. And now we're kind of primed for blast off season is what our expectation is. It's going to matter, of course, on this news in the next 24 hours. But per M2, it's looking good. And we can see we've got today a few things, but tomorrow is really what we want to see. Even though there's not actually going to be a rate change, it's still going to be the same. But it's just some certainty for the market, and then hopefully we can get something moving quickly. Of course, market cap USDT dominance it's gone down a little bit, but we needed to touch this and then break it for it to go quite euphoric. But this is from Julian that's talking about the Trump cycle repeating. And this is the last time he was in office. This is the number in billions, so of M2 supply. So this is 74 trillion. This is 112 trillion of M2 money supply. These are just estimates, right? And you can see that the cycle is most definitely just repeating. And this is pre-COVID as well, like significantly pre-COVID. So I'm really, really of the opinion that M2 is like what we're following this cycle. Also, interest rates are far too high. The dollar is too strong. So the administration pushes down the dollar. This is the DXY today. It's dropped significantly. And then you can see what had happened as well in the previous cycle. The dollar drops, you can print more money, lower debt, etc. And Raoul Pal, like, he has the same vision, of course. It's the same family, the same kind of team. But his viewpoint is, if 89% of all of BTC's price actions is explained by global liquidity, then by definition, almost all news and narrative is noise. Enjoy your weekend. This is what I'm attributing. And there's going to be a lot of people out there influencing you or educating you. You can do whatever it is you want to do, but I'm not of the opinion that the market's going to full send down. I just don't think that is likely. And I've seen some people with really large audiences talk about like this hedge. Your altcoins, like, sure, you can put on a hedge if you've got enough to hedge and if you're happy to keep them the same value. But in general, like, I just don't think it's going to be too scary. With the data we have currently, fair and greed is 68 and pretty balanced when it comes to longs and shorts. So there's not much here, to be perfectly honest. Look, some massive ETH liquidations, relatively, and 350 million. Some longs were hit. If we have a look here at the liquidation map, I would see that we'd move on down in price to capture these. This is just one exchange, of course, but if we get Confluence, then would probably indicate that to be the same. This is not the right chart I was wanting to show up, sorry. Bybit BTC, same here, like more of a cluster to move the price down, $1,000 or so. Let's have a look at Sol. And I will have a quick look at hype. Don't really want to focus too much on hype though. This as well, I would think we're going to move the price down to take out all those people there, just far more lucrative for a market maker. And it can vary, so you need to check this. You just can't watch this video and be like, okay, cool, this is what he said. Bybit Sol, see, but this one has a massive, like, you'd have to move the price up quite a bit to take out that cluster, so that's too hard. So still, I would still think it would come on down. There's just some big shorting happening further on. We will have a quick look at Hyperliquid with hype specifically, but I'm not expecting there to be enough liquidity for market makers to move in either direction. I just kind of look at hype and I think, yes, they're generating fees. They are the talk of the town. Everyone wants to be the next best club. I have my bets on who's going to be doing well, and we'll talk about one in a second. But in general, I wouldn't worry about the market makers for hype too much. With Katoshi settings, we did switch to green. However, like when things are not like overly bullish, like that's a fundamental reason I wouldn't have entered this. What you generally do is you wait for one green candle close and you would enter here, and it could be okay. It's okay on the daily chart, but we can see with like Sol USD, it's green as well, but it's flattening off, likely to turn red again. So I'm thinking maybe a small red, and then we go off again. Of course, there are exceptions, like Hype has gone like this. But yeah, remember this indicator's got like a 90% success rate. Now, a token that has been doing crazy well is Zex from Zeta Markets. They're rebranding to Bullet. I've mentioned it quite a few times. And other than its launch, which was some time ago, from this low price now to like this current price, it's up like 700%, and it's doing really well. So this one here, you know, you'll be top blasting right now if you buy it. So you can go and add a fib and work out what you're going to do. Or because this is a Solana token, you can go and set up a bid-ask system for a bit of a drawdown and just buy more as it gets lower, and then flick it around and put it into an ask system as it goes higher. Highly likely, like just a bit of a moon bag would be a good idea. And we did have some, but we sold all of it due to miscommunication. But a bit of a moon bag, even if you're playing with these things, because this is a fundamental thing. Justin Sun Tron to go public in the US via a reverse merger with NASDAQ listed SRM Entertainment. This is nutty. Like this shows, you know, max extraction, just rubbish, whatever. And CoffeeZilla is obviously, he's like a guns blazing or attack anything that moves kind of thing. But he's kind of nailed it on the head here. Sun buys this, Justin Sun. I mean, investigated by the SEC, like half of people in the US in crypto are investigated by the SEC. But Justin Sun is like, he's a rich, smart person with a blockchain that's really only used to move USDT. And that could be replicated by another blockchain in the future, for sure. Either way, bearish. The price itself, it did climb up 9%, but now it's down 2.4. It gave up most of its gains, but would have been a good thing to trade at the time. Next bit of news is very good. Filecoin, hot air rises, and Binance US may list this. Air is hot, and I don't think it's a summer breeze. However, Binance US is not going to make anything go crazy in terms of price, and Binance US is not Binance, so once Binance lists it, then whammo. But, you know, as the Bonk guy says, this guy is so often right, you just got to keep that in mind. In meme coinery, like Filecoin on the next leg up, violently parabolic. I still think DLMMing this is a fun thing to do and a worthwhile thing. JP Morgan, world's largest bank, has filed a trademark for what appears to be a stablecoin called JPMD. Highly likely just used internally. Like no one's going to remember that or whatever, but this is bullish. And X is like one of those relationships, like an abusive partner. Maybe that's not the right analogy. Like you want to leave them, but you just rely on them for so many things. Maybe a terrible analogy. I apologize. My point here is they just keep on banning so many people, and there's no recourse. Pump.fun and Elon has been banned, and like you just see so many of these things. GMGN, BullX, Bloom Trading, like Geik, Eliza, Short, like they just get banned continually. So yeah, I think it's important to try and build your Twitter brand, but you've got to be careful because it is very centralized. Habibi load the barrels. For the first time on Solana, you can now trade crude oil futures. This is done with flash.trade, which I think is really cool, especially if we go to war, price of oil goes up. If we don't go to war, if it de-escalates, price comes down, and you can see if we go to like a daily chart, then we're going to see the price. I mean, it actually was quite high beginning of the year, and it came on down. So like there wasn't even really much in the way of war talks, and it just kind of is volatile. DeFi Dungeons, the Forge, the Hero's Guide expansion is today, but I won't be able to cover it for like a week, so we'll just cover it a little bit on Twitter. And you can read about it here, but basically you can combine gold equipment and resources to upgrade equipment, and users can upgrade their base items from tier 1 to 7. So we'll have a play, but no video for the next few days because I'm not here. Bonk, if you already have one of these, you've got a couple of days to get a Bonk loot box. We don't know what this is all about. We know that 4,000 have been minted, so not too many. It's $6 a mint. I think it's worth a small gamble. I think by the time you connect everything, there's your mint fee, there's your protocol fee. How is that? Does that add up? Did I miscalculate that? Whatever. 0.04 is what it costs is. Maybe get a couple of these. It could be something as simple as just like, cool, you've got a loot box, and now we're randomly going to just, using a verifiable random chain function, just start eliminating them, and then the final 5 or 10, they get a whole lot of bonk, $100,000 worth of bonk, who knows? Now, I mentioned earlier that the actual stock market was not reacting to the news of an imminent US invasion. And I feel like because the majority of the money is in here, that's why I don't think crypto's reacting correctly. Now, of course, we could open and things could change, but I'm not really seeing it. Also, having a look at the trenches here, it's really, really, really hard right now to be playing on the trenches and to do well. So all I can really suggest, nothing financial, of course, is you're going to look at things like your fart coins are probably going to make you enjoy DLMMing far more just on a range here than going and taking risks on silly tokens like this. $1 million, and they boost the chart up to 300,000. They attract in not too many holders, and then they just nuke the heck out of it. And this kind of stuff, it's just continuous. Of course, you've got this, you've got useless, you've got some other ones. If you like a token, find a range and go have some fun. Now, Rec Drinks, they were sold out yesterday. We didn't cover it because they just kind of flashed onto us, and I was kind of keen after I read another post on it, and it wasn't even dupesync.link, so it was really a flash, just kind of there and out. But this was a pretty cool thing. You get like a flavored sparkling water drink that you buy, and then you end up getting a Rect coin. And the idea is it's a brand coin, not like a meme coin. I have no idea how well it's going to do, but 22 minutes and it was all over, and it wasn't really advertised. So that was a small fumble, in my opinion. Like, it just kind of flashed here, but we didn't actually see the time on when it was going to happen. So it's hard. It's like bullish on Jupiter, and they're not responsible for every partnership they're making, but there are some fumbles here, and I think they're going to get it right, and so the value to the Jupe token will be coming soon. But in the meantime, a little bit of an annoying thing that it just kind of happened, just went live, and if you weren't following Rec Drinks with notifications on, then you missed out. Anyway, the token itself, I'm not bullish or bearish on it. I'm not really excited about it, but I just think it's a clever idea. It's a new idea and something maybe to keep an eye on. But it's got a sizable market cap, so keep that in mind as well. That's all for today. For the next couple of days, I'm going to be doing some podcasts, not in my home city. So I may not be there with a whole lot of news, but we'll be still on Twitter, and we'll catch you there. Cheers.